great we're the 21st century people. When did they start compounding interest? And I don't know an exact date for this, but
1900s.
when do you think people were interested in compounding
I don't even
interest?
know what it means to compound.
Okay, good question. So compounding interest is, I'm going to put in $100 into the bank account when my kid is born, okay? And I found a bank that is going to compound interest, let's say monthly, okay? So as opposed to yearly. So that means if it is monthly and I say, oh, well, I'm gonna put $100 in, and if I had this formula, PBT, I'm putting in my $100 and my rate should be what? 1 times what, and I said 5%, right? 0.5, and I'm going to have it as, yes, that's non-existent right now. It used to be maybe when I was in high school, but the interest rates in banks are very, very low. But, and let's say I do it for 10 years. Okay. That is a straight interest problem. But in the real world, it doesn't exist. Because if it's compounded, let's say, monthly, do you think they're going to give me 5% 12 times over the year? Or are they going to take that 5% and divvy it up?
Divvy it up.
They're going to divvy up that 5%. So it's going to be, I know I'm going to have that money, which is my 100%, but they're divvying up the 5% over 12 months. Okay, and if it's going to happen 12 times, okay, and if I did it for 1 year, I could calculate how much money I had. So in the first month, am I still going to have just $100 in the bank, or have I earned a little bit of interest? I've earned, well, I only put $100 in.
But if you had a ton of money, you gave interest, like, so you have like
10,000 or $1 million bucks. Okay, so, or not even so. That's why you are all encouraged to start saving money ASAP, because it will compound over time. So after, Michael, so after a month, I will have a little bit more money. I may have made, I don't know, 5 cents or something. But then the following month, I no longer just have $100 in the bank, I have $100.05. And then the next month, so it's growing. So it's not just going to be $100 at a time. And that's what we mean by compounded. Yes, okay? All right, so are we good so far with what I mean about compounding? So, quickly, because I really want to make sure that you understand that. Going back to history, when do you think 1500s, anybody else?
Maybe early.
1929.
No,
You're talking about in the 20s?
I bet it's way back. but
Okay.
BC.
And have you guys read William Shakespeare's A Merchant of Venice?
No.
Okay, when was Shakespeare around? 1600s?
Yeah.
Okay, and in The Merchant of Venice, he's talking about lending money. And as early, and I'm sure it may have been earlier than that, think about
Well,
Queen
like,
Isabella.
They were like very, very civilized. I'm sure they have.
Absolutely, absolutely, in early times. But the first record, and I just want to give you this historical fact, because I think it's kind of interesting to know about these things. But in 1683, they were looking, and this was in Germany actually, they were looking at compound interest, and they were examining continuous compound interest. So I said earlier to you that this was going to be compounded monthly. Well, let's say instead of it happening monthly, we have it done just quarterly. Or instead of quarterly, we have it done daily. Or if we have it done daily, how about if we have it done hourly? If we had it done hourly, could we even break it down to the second? I'm going to show you what happens. And a number appeared when something is compounded continuously. And you know how pi is a special number? Well, E is a special number, and E is the number that was found when something was compounded continuously. Okay? Michael?
Well, how come yesterday when I did the homework and I did like 200.5, like times 0.5 to the 75th, how come it gave me like a decimal then to E? So,
Because there's an error, because your calculator only has like, I don't know, 10 spaces across, or it can fit 8 numbers across. So if you have a number that is 7, let's say 7, and there's some numbers, and then it says to the E3, this is saying in scientific notation, e to the third or negative third. That's what that, and Cassie just asked that same question, different E, okay? All right. So, let me see. I'm giving you a little bit of information before I go. So this is a 9.1D, and we're talking about exponential functions. Turning the light off, okay? Not this is just for your information. And in exponential functions, we know that when we saw the radioactive substances, it was an example of decay, and we had our exponential function. Will it ever hit 0?
No.
No, I mean, it will decay, but it is not going to hit 0. And we see in banks that money will grow exponentially. Again, save for your retirement as early as you can, because that money will continue to grow. Okay, and money can be compounded monthly, weekly, etc. And I already went over this for you. Okay. I wanted to show you something else. So there are 2 different words that you may come across about interest. And one of the words is the effective annual yield, as opposed to the nominal rate. Okay? So there are 2 different words here, the effective annual yield and the nominal rate. I'm going to show you this ad. Where are we? Right here. So in a bank, sometimes in an advertisement, and just this book is outdated, and you're not going to see this, but it says passport savings of 5% compounded daily, so it's 5.13% effective annual yield. Because your money is actually growing each time, you're actually going to earn more interest than just the straight 5%.
So don't forget the compounded daily.
Pardon me?
So compounded daily means that it's growing by a certain amount every day.
A day. So they're doing it every day. And I'm going to show you that in a second. I'll be more specific. Okay? And this one is a 90-day certificate of deposit, and it used to be this high. Now you're lucky if it's 1% or something. Okay, so people are not putting their money necessarily in savings accounts or certificate of deposits. The stock market actually right now is growing. And if you study economics, there's a balancing act between the 2. Oftentimes when the stock market is rising, you have differences in your savings, and sometimes the reverse holds true.
Because most people's money is in stocks, it's not like liquid money.
That's right. It's for the long term. And so for those of you, if you do invest in the stock market, you need to know not to panic when things fall, as they did a couple of years ago. And things bottomed out, but they're all climbing up steadily. So those people who bought at the bottom, they're raking in money, because they bought when everybody else was selling, they were buying. They did just the opposite of what. That's right, and everybody sold, but the money they had bought high, and then they're selling it low, and so they lose their money. So I would highly recommend that everybody takes a course in economics, probably one of the most powerful courses that you as a consumer can take. Okay, so we understand that we have a regular interest rate and effective annual yield. All right, so let's look at this. This is right in your textbook, it's 641. And this is assuming that you deposit $1,200 in your savings account. Okay,